Okay. All right, we are live on YouTube and we are ready to begin. So, this week has dramatic weather. It has whatever else is going on in your life. I'm going to mute all of you who are on Zoom. They did predict it would rain today. It has rained a little, I think, but not the way they predicted. So maybe that's still coming. Let me turn. It is the remnant of a hurricane, I believe. That's right, Hurricane Debbie.
Yeah, Rabbi,
Yes?
it's raining up here. The rain that did to you is raining up here a lot. So
it's raining up where Robin is.
Right, in the lower Hudson Valley.
Yes. So let's just take a moment, whatever that means, to breathe, to try to relax our aches and pains, our muscles that are tense. Make space for Shabbat. We are beginning this evening on page 126 in the prayer book. That's in the blue bracketed numbers. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services. But I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach outward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. Page 120 and 121 is the candle blessings. I'd like to invite Linda Kushner to unmute and do the blessings for us.
As these candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'tzvatav tzivanu l'chadlik. Shabbat. I didn't go on. What happened?
I lit the candles.
Oh.
That's all. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we turn to the Kiddush on page 123, and I'd like to invite Marshall Sorgan to read the Kiddush for us in English.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the holy Shabbat our heritage, as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
If you're able, I invite you to rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. You may be seated. Tastes like a Jolly Rancher. We are turning to page 130 for Lechun Ranana. Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Ladonai. Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Lechun Ranana, Ladonai. Naria, Naria, L'tur Yishenu, Nikad Mapanav B'toda. Naria, Naria, L'tur Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria lo. Lechun Ranena, Lechun Ranena, Lechun Ranena, Ladonai. Lechun Ranena, Lechun Ranena, Lechun Ranena, Ladonai. The Baruch Hu is on page 264. We're doing service 2 this evening, 264. If you're able, I invite you to rise. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach leolam vaed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach leolam vaed. You may be seated. Page 265, I invite you to read with me. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 266. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah umitzvot, Chukim umishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbenu, uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu. Uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'avatcha al tasir, mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. The Shema is on page 267. If you're able, I invite you to rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha. Vishinantam livanecha, vidibarta bam, vishivtecha bevetecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshochvecha, uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha. Uchtavtam al mizuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 269, I invite you to read responsively with me. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption come? When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Page 270. Yabba bim bim bam, yabba bim bam, yabba bim bim bam, yabba bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yabba bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yabba bim bam. Mi kamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh. Norati loro se felle, norati loro se felle, malechutecha rauvanecha, bokei ayam livnei Moshe, ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, yabba bim bim bam, ba bim bam, ya ba bim bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ay 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 ay, ya ba bim bam, ay 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 ay, ya ba bim bam. What did you say, Elaine? I covered the whole congregation. V'ne'emar ki fadad Adonai et Yaakov ugealo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 271, Hashkivenu. Let us lie down in peace and raise us up tomorrow, ready to face another day. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim. And down to the bottom to the Chatima. Baruch atah Adonai hapurei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'el kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai hapurei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Page 272 is Yismechu. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei Mekadeshei Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbehu V'yitangu Metuvecha Shabbat, Yismechu V'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei oneg Shabbat. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. זכר למעשה וראשית שבת, זכר למעשה וראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. The tefillah begins on page 273. If you're able, I invite you to rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatah, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al givurot, umidomelach, Melech memit umechaye umatmiach Yeshua b'nemanat halachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh Ukiroshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. Page 277 to 278. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah. Please read with me. The heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Page 279. Be gracious, Adonai, our God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. O may our worship always be acceptable to you. Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek you in truth. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst and in the midst of our people in Zion. Blessed is Adonai, whose presence renews Zion. And we've come now to Modim, our blessing of gratitude. And if you're on Zoom and are feeling grateful for something, you're welcome to put it in the chat. But also, everyone and anyone is welcome to share out loud. Linda Kushner.
Very, very grateful that my masseuse came today. Made me feel 100% better.
Wonderful. Modim anachnu lach for self-care. Helene.
I am very grateful that this week my numbers went down and they delayed treatment until next week. So I am elated. I hope it continues. But it's a busy week between me and the hospital. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Is there more, Helene?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I should lower myself. And then I should mute.
It's okay. Modim anachnu lach. Thank you. Gail and Bob.
I'm grateful that I had a beautiful group of students yesterday doing yoga at the college. We have a special program called the Melissa Reggio program, and everyone came, and it was just beautiful experience. I'm so grateful that I had it.
Amen to that. In the chat, we have Patricia Matthews is grateful it's the weekend to rest. Charlotte is grateful for her cousin and friend. Susan Sisler is grateful for prepared food from the supermarket. The rest of Charlotte.
The rest of it.
My cousin and friend Alice is coming from Arizona for a few days. That's the whole thing. And Karen Kramer is grateful that her wrist is feeling better after a bad fall. Lori is grateful to a visit to the aquarium with her grandchildren, children, and niece last Sunday, and it was very good to see everyone. Linda Horowitz keeps getting kicked out of the service, but is grateful that she's here right now. Is she here right now? She is. So Modim anachnu lach as much as you can be here, Linda. I don't know what's going on. Elaine. Amazing. When is the wedding anniversary? in December. Wow. Elaine Sarfati is grateful that Isaac had his 90th birthday and that they will be celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary in December. What? Hopefully on a boat. A cruise kind of boat or like a rowboat? Oh, a cruise to Canada. Well, wonderful, amazing. Modima nachnu lach for that. Luke. Because what? Grateful that his roommate has been gone for 2 weeks because he's enjoying the alone time. Without the roommate. Yes, I got it. Amen to that. Anybody else? Okay. We are on page 281. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'el lehodot. Page 282. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha livarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael bashalom. We have come now to our quiet prayer. There are words in the prayer book on pages 283 to 285. There are words on the screen, if you can see the screen. But of course, we can always use the words that are in our own hearts. We continue quietly. Iule ratzon imrefi, vegion libi lefanecha. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Begoali, Begoali. May the words of our mouths and the meditations in our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. We hold in our hearts those who remain captive in Gaza, and our prayer for captives is on the screen. For all our family of the house of Israel, fellow Jews and non-Jews who face anguish and captivity, whether on sea or on land, may the divine have compassion upon them and bring them from distress to relief, from darkness to light, from subjugation to redemption, now, speedily, soon, and let us say, Amen. And a blessing for Israel and for Gaza. May you somehow feel blessing piercing through. May protection find you whether or not those in charge are keeping you safe. May you surprise yourself by seeing God's face occasionally shining through to you on the face of the other. May you feel the startling, comforting grace of God's presence in the most unlikely times. May your head, bowed in sadness, fear, despair, anger, be lifted up to see a different future. May you envision yourself as a possible agent of an impossible peace worth fighting for. May you live. May you be and see God's image. May the unthinkable never be thinkable. May the impossible become possible. Ken yehi ratzon. May it be so. We turn our thoughts now to those among us and those in our hearts who are ill and who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. I see that those of you on Zoom have begun to put names in the chat. Please continue to do so if you have names to add. And also, everyone will have an opportunity to add names out loud. We hold in our thoughts and in our hearts for healing this evening Allison Plummer, Rabbi Dara Lerner, Susan Sisler, Jody Siegel-Stein, Isaac Hochman, Lennon Safe, Joellen Fox, Sarah Bard Ratliff, Kenny Schweiger, Paul Gold, Gina Marie Cortez, Janet Schlesinger, Jonathan Falkowski, Martha Vincent, Ingrid Grosso, Eddie DeAngelis, Vicki Lightmaker, Nettie Trommer, Mia Gannon, Jeff Abel, Freya Kashmir, Delphine Wolf, Liz Yasuda, Mark and Paul Steiner, Celia Karp, Stephen Belay, Helene Smith, Robert Freed, Ed Feinberg, Jason Feinberg, Janet Zarowitz, Jesse Strussman Pasqualone, Joseph Martino, Randy Cohen, Luis Perez, Rosie and Luis Rios, Elliot Drucker, Rosa Gordon, Frima Schneier, Adonis Malamatinakis. Augustine Davis, Damian Colon, Jerome Taylor, Ed Robinson, Joanna Marie, Teresa O'Sullivan, Jimmy Jenkins, Chanel Camabach, Juliette Dale, Maureen Dale, Elena Aram, Warren Feliz, Sylvia Silva, DeAndre Wynn, Jennifer Magoob, Sarah West, Tamia Bethia Williams, Della Holder, John Holder, Vanessa Johnson, Anita Jones, Jeanette Walton, Robert Walton, Bria DeRosa, Raymond Quick, Gary and Angela Tanine, Tracy Strumpf, Roberta Gotthelf, Lois Sparakis, Mark Scott, Stacy and David Mauser, Hannah Paines, Joan and Dawn Sorgan, Tom Olson, Scott Charles, Carol Lesser, Linda and Howard Simca, Eleanor Cohen, Rita Rokiski, Renee Bash, Harriet Holtzman, Marion and Harry Munns, Batya Unger, Olivia and Sammy Zelling, Judith Kors, Pat Flood, Angie Napoli, Mila Minich, Martini Narcisse, Claude Smith, Jenny, Kathy Sunby, Art,
Kathy Smith, Randy Smith, Amy Hesser, Jill Cashin, and Loretta Umlis. And I would like to ask for a prayer for those firefighters fighting all the wildfires that were all over the country.
thank you. Linda Kushner,
Carol and Stevie Doppelt, David Gershon, Ruth Gordon, Phyllis and Lori Benjamin, both mother and daughter were both diagnosed with cancer. I'm sick. Sherry Jacobs, Naomi and Ira Ginsburg, Tara Jackson Kushner, Ronnie Kaplowitz, and myself. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Alan?
Bonnie Greenbaum, Karen Eichel, Susie Softy, Miriam Mishkin, Howard Mishkin, Mike Hipsher, Marshall Thames, and Nancy Portee.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, if you're in the room, please raise your hand if you have names to add. Elaine? We include also all of those who have been wounded in service to our country or Israel, those who have been hurt in ongoing wars and conflicts around the world, including, of course, in Gaza and Israel, and in Haiti and Ukraine and Sudan and so many other places in the world, Afghanistan, as well as those who have been harmed in natural disasters. Art mentioned the wildfires raging in so many parts of the United States, and a big earthquake that just happened in Japan yesterday. And then there are also other kinds of disasters. There was just a very bad plane crash in Brazil, I read. And so for all of those who have been hurt or lost loved ones in these, in all of the things that go on in our world, we include them all in our prayers for healing. You can find our Misha Berach on page 371 in the middle of the page. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Nishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. We have a lovely group of people. The division between in-person and on Zoom is skewing towards Zoom tonight. This week's Torah portion is the first of the book of Deuteronomy, which is, of course, the fifth and last book of the Torah. In our Torah portion, Devarim, Moses gives a brief recounting of the journey from Mount Horeb, that is Mount Sinai, to where they are now, ready to enter the promised land. Something that strikes me as I read the Torah portion is that there are a number of references to fear or to being afraid. There are 6 of them in our Torah portion. And in those 6 instances, there are 3 different implications of the fear that is mentioned. So first, an overview of where this idea of fear or being afraid turns up. In the first chapter of Deuteronomy, Moses reminds the Israelites of how he delegated power to tribal leaders in small groups so that their disputes could be settled efficiently. And the judges were charged, "You shall not be partial in judgment, hear out high and low alike. Fear no one, for judgment is God's." In the second chapter of Deuteronomy, Moses speaks of the descendants of Esau who live in the land of Seir and says that the Israelites were not to provoke them, even though the inhabitants there, the Edomites, were afraid of the Israelites. Back again in the first chapter, Moses tells about when the Israelites first arrived at the border of the land and the spies were sent to scout it. Moses says, "I said to you, have no dread or fear of the inhabitants of the land, because God would fight for them." Of course, the people didn't listen, and the consequence was that they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. 3 other instances of fear being mentioned in our Torah portion are similar to this in that they also have to do with fear and war. At one point, God promises to put dread and fear of the Israelites into all the other peoples. In the 3rd chapter, Moses remembers telling them not to fear King Og of Bashan because God will help the Israelites defeat him, which they do. And at the end of our portion, Moses says he charged Joshua not to fear the kingdoms that they will battle in the land, for God will fight for them. So I'm going to begin with a set of 4 similar references to fear, which have to do with fear in battle. This is something the Israelites struggle with early on. Leaving Mount Sinai, they arrive very quickly at the promised land. It's not very far away. And though Moses tells them not to be afraid of the people living in the promised land, they are. Their lack of faith is disturbing to both Moses and God, and they're not allowed into the land. Almost 40 years later, the people have been toughened up by the wilderness, and the fighting force is made up of a new generation that has been raised tough and free. Being more confident than their parents' generation, they are more prepared, perhaps, to believe God when told that God will put the fear of them into other peoples. Then we get an example of that promise being made good. King Og of Bashan is defeated. And finally, Joshua is told not to fear future battles with other kingdoms. And we know from the book of Joshua, which is not part of the Torah, but is the first book of the prophets, that he doesn't, and the people don't either. They march very resolutely into battle. We may take from these references to fear with regard to battle a lesson about leadership. Confidence and fearlessness has to come from within as well as from the outside. Years ago now, when I was in rabbinical school, I was having a very difficult year because of a family situation, and I went to one of my teachers to drop his class. I told him the pressure of the class was too much. He looked at me for a moment, and then he said, "Stop feeling pressured." Did that work? He said that. Did that work? Of course it didn't work, and of course he knew it didn't work. But what he did do was he worked with me to give me ways to build my own confidence and lower the amount of pressure that I was experiencing, and I stayed successfully in the class. There needs to be a combination of reassurance from the leadership and self-assurance in the followers, and that self-assurance gets built through time and experience. One of the other passages where fear is mentioned in our Torah portion is the opposite of these first examples that I discussed. In this instance, the Israelites were told not to provoke the inhabitants of Seir, even though those inhabitants fear the Israelites. Commentator and teacher Nechama Leibowitz writes, "A reverse test faced the children of those who died in the wilderness, that of the strong versus the weak, that of resisting the temptation to take advantage of their superior strength by harassing their weaker neighbors. The new generation, full of their own strength and vigor, had to learn to practice self-control and curb their own aggressiveness aroused by the very fear that the weaker neighbor displayed. It's not good to have no courage, to be unable to recognize your own strength, but it's also not good to abuse your strength, to go after others just because you can. We learn from this that we should indeed develop our strength and courage, but having developed them, we must use them wisely and with discipline. The other passage that mentions fear in our Torah portion seems very different from the ones I've already described. It is when the leaders of subsets of the Israelites, leaders who are charged with judging disputes, are told that they must judge fairly, giving advantage to neither the rich nor the poor, and without fearing anyone who comes before them. The judges are in a position of power, but perhaps they could find themselves in a situation where one of the disputants is very wealthy and thus also powerful, maybe more so than the judge himself, and they were all men, or maybe that person appointed that judge. Or a situation where one of the disputants is very learned or wise and deeply respected in the community and by the judge himself. The lessons of both courage and restraint that I already discussed with regard to the fighting force of the Israelites actually applies here as well on an individual level. Each leader needed to develop a sense of his own ability to adjudicate fairly and the courage to make decisions that were fair, even if they went against someone powerful. The reason? Because there was, like the Hebrew national people, a higher authority that they all answered to. They all answered to God. At the same time and for the same reason, these leaders needed to maintain their humility and not abuse their power, for certainly some of those who came before them would be afraid and vulnerable. And so it is for us. We will face battles in our lives, individually, as a community, as a people. Sometimes they are physical battles, as in times of war. At other times, They will be other kinds of battles against disease or for changes to our community or our world. We must face our fear, and as we survive to battle on, allow that, our survival, to build our courage and self-assurance. At the same time, we must be respectful of those weaker than ourselves and not hurt them just because we can. May we be granted strength, and may our courage grow, and may we always have compassion and respect for others, so that we may each increase justice and peace within ourselves, in our community, and in the world. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. We are going to turn now to the Aleinu. The Aleinu begins on page 586 at the top of the page. If you're able, I invite you to rise. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינות. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones who have died in the past days or weeks or months or in past years at this time of the year. I have shared our yahrzeit list to the screen. Those of you who are on Zoom are welcome to add names in the chat, but also everyone will have an opportunity to add names out loud. We remember those who have died in the past year: Judy Robbins, Sid Bansal, Francine Benjamin, Deanna Roth, Marvin Bachman, Grace Schneider, Dr. Stephen Antipol, Lester Futternick, Kamal Burai, Warren Sorgan, Joan Marie Pandolfo Cortez, Janet Dankowitz, Victoria Ann Morell, Harriet Laufer, Erwin Cohen, Saul Siegel, Naomi Kirsch, Bio Calendar, Jacques Cohen, Ned Goldberg, Irene Berkowitz, Manny Arnowitz, Judy Silversmith, Kathy Cricky, Marvin Schneider, Joan Lifshitz, Elaine May, Alan Mandel, June Friedman, Harvey Crevoy, Dr. Luis Fernando Salguero, Ellen Block, Bonnie Bezoza, Amitai Ben Tzvi, Doris Present, Marvin File, Howard Eisenstadt, Ed Vincent, Rita Weinberg Clark, Joni Rosenfeld, and it's the first yahrzeit of George Landberg. Included on our yahrzeit list today are Dorothy Fadum, Nancy Ostrover's mother, Lottie C. Friedlander, Natalie Friedlander's mother-in-law, Minerva Grossman, Hazel Tishkoff's mother, Al Jaffe, Jerry Jaffe's father, Cecilia Rubenstein, Linda Kushner's grandmother, and Patricia Weiss, Judith Weiss's mother. Also on our yahrzeit list, I'd like to mention Jerome Belson, who was a major donor in the, a major benefactor of the synagogue in the Temple Beth Emeth days. Ilsa Korkus, who I think probably Charlotte wants to mention. Do you want to go ahead, Charlotte?
Yes, Ilse was on the Kindertransport. Her mother sent her from Vienna to England, and she ended up living there for 2 years before her mother and grandmother were able to get out of Vienna.
Thank you.
I also wanted to mention Private Jerome E. Greenberg. I did not know him, but I know he died in service to our country in World War II, and there was a window dedicated to him at the Avenue R Temple.
Thank you so much. I want to also mention Suzanne Leknos. Linda Kushner?
Next to my Shabbos candles is a yahrzeit for my uncle Moritz Koshanowitz. He was a Holocaust survivor. And my good friend Janet Brandt died 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Yeah. Art?
In the period of Shana, Arthur DeMello.
Thank you. Roseanne Levitt adds that Eva Gorodinsky, who is also on the yahrzeit list, is her aunt. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay. If you're in the room, Michael Rose? Thank you. We include also all of those who have died in Israel and Gaza in this terrible war. We include those who have died in other wars and conflicts around the world, as well as those who have died from other causes, whether in war or famine or terror or disaster, or alone and homeless on the streets of our cities. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. I invite you to rise if you're able and join in, or to participate according to your own custom. Page 598. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei, dekudasha, barichu. Le'ela min kol virchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, huya ase shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to the bereaved here among us and wherever they may be. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Ose shalom bimromav, huya ase shalom. Aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'yimeru. Amen. A few announcements before we conclude. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will have Torah study of the weekly Torah portion. Sorry, there was a Zoom message that said it sounded like I had switched languages and was I speaking English. Anyway, Torah study, 10 a.m. tomorrow in person and on Zoom. Services at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I think we're maybe probably going to do them in the community room tomorrow just because I don't know how many people are going to come. But we'll see. Maybe we'll make a game time decision. On August 11th, Sunday, August 11th, that's this Sunday, it's the Brotherhood outing to Maimonides Park to see the baseball game of the Cyclones versus the Renegades. 2 p.m.
Rabbi?
Yes?
Game change time. Tonight's game was rained out, so it's now a 1 o'clock doubleheader.
Now it's a 1 o'clock doubleheader. Woohoo! Can people still get tickets, Alan?
No, we're all out. We've sold 79 tickets.
Ooh, we're all out of tickets. So don't forget to go if you have a ticket. And if you didn't get a ticket for the next thing before they're gone.
They could buy their own and join us.
You could buy your own and join them. I mean, I don't think it's sold out, right?
The game should not
But
be
it's at
sold
1
out.
o'clock because tonight's game got rained out. Okay, Monday, Gentle Chair Yoga at 4 o'clock p.m. Gail is the person to contact. She's raising her hand on Zoom. If you're interested in joining, this is on Zoom. There is an Interfaith Coalition of Brooklyn book discussion at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 13th on Zoom. The book is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. Torah study, also on Zoom, Thursday, August 15th at 1 p.m. Tot Shabbat, not on Zoom, in person, but for the tiny people. Friday, August 16th, 10 a.m., I think I said that already, here in the sanctuary. Honey from the Heart fundraiser is ongoing. What better gift could there be for Rosh Hashanah? It is $16 per bottle, and the sale is continuing on until September 8th. There is an $8 shipping charge. There's a link at bashert.org, or you speak to Pam Glansman if you want to pay by check. There is going to be a congregational choir for the High Holy Days. There will be rehearsals on Thursdays, August 29th, September 5, 12, 19, and 26, and Monday, September 30th, because the holidays don't start until October. All the rehearsals are from 7 to 9 p.m. Contact Alice in the temple office to sign up. The next sports event that we're going to as a group is the New York Liberty game. We still have 5 tickets left. That's it. For the September 15th New York Liberty game at the Barclays Center. It's at 1 o'clock p.m. I'm assuming that's a Sunday. Contact Pam Glansman or Zach Topkiss if you are interested. I think that's it.
Rabbi?
Yes?
Could you make sure, please, that you change that for tomorrow, your announcements tomorrow morning?
Yes, I can. I can and I will. 1 o'clock. Got it. Thank you for reminding me. And thank you very much to Linda Kushner and Marshall Sorgan for doing the honors this evening.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Anything else?
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Then if you're able, I invite you to rise. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift God's face towards you and give you peace. Amen. And before we go over to the Oneg, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Be safe in the weather. Have
Good
a
to
great
see everybody.
weekend. All do
Thank
things.
you,
Shalom.
Rabbi, for a
Thank you,
wonderful
Rabbi. Good
service.
Shabbos, Rabbi.